years old, Vince Carter was determined to show that age is just a number. In every sport, athletes know that not everything lasts forever and that sooner or later, time will catch them. However, some players are willing to bravely face off and show the world they can still fight a few more rounds. Known as the King of Dunks, for his unique ability to stop time with each jump, Vince Carter played for 22 seasons in the NBA, an absolute record. He was the third player with the most games in NBA history with 1,541 and the first and only player to play in 4 different decades in the NBA. But what everyone wondered was, why was he still playing? How was a 43-year-old player still in the NBA? This is the story of Vince Lamar Carter, an NBA star everyone called the Old Man, but who proved them wrong. Vincent Lamar. Vince Carter was born on January 26, 1977 in Daytona Beach, Florida, as the first of 2 children that Michelle and Vince Carter had. However, when Vince was barely in 2nd grade, his father abandoned the family, which was hard on him and his mother, but later he would meet Harry Robinson, Vince's stepfather, and as he himself comments, the man he considers his real father. From a very young age, Vince showed a great passion and obsession for basketball, but the little boy was amazed not only by the game, but by one player in particular, Julius Erving. If Vince Carter became one of the greatest dunk specialists in the NBA, it was largely because he imitated the plays of the great Dr. J, known for his skill and impressive dunks for his time. Vince would spend his free time practicing everything he saw from Erving, and from a very young age, he surprised his friends, who began calling him UFO, unidentified flying object. Although his parents knew of the great skills that little Vince had for basketball, they did not want him to focus only on that. They wanted him to be responsible with his homework and develop his creativity, which is why they enrolled him in music classes, where he would also excel in various instruments. Despite this, Vince would spend hours and hours on the Daytona courts. He trained his dunks, which were very popular in playground culture, and this led to him playing with kids older than him. Vince Carter quickly became the star of his team in his first year of school thanks to his jumping ability. Vince made a big difference compared to his rivals, so he began focusing on polishing his dribbling, passing, and dribbling skills with both hands, and even worked much more on his jumping and dunks, of course. In his second year, Carter was already close to 6'6", so his coach, Charlie Brinkerhoff, made a position change from point guard to small forward to take advantage of his height when playing in the post and rebounding. That same year, Carter averaged more than 25 points and 11 rebounds per game, leading his team to a 30-2 record. In his senior year, Carter was a great student, actively participating in the school's marching band, and above all, he was considered a promising young basketball player. He was chosen as Florida's Mr. Basketball and participated in the ESPN Field All-American Dunk Contest, beating a certain Paul Pierce in 1995. Despite rumors that placed Carter in Florida, he ended up choosing the University of North Carolina, where he would play for the Tar Heels for 3 years. His announcement to North Carolina was a media boom. The press greeted him with "Vinsanity has come to Carolina," and before he even debuted, many young people on campus were already wearing his number 15 jersey. Carter joined North Carolina's historic coach, Dean Smith, along with notable teammates like Anton Jameson, Shamond Williams, and Ademola Okulaja. However, Carter's first season was not his best, and he ended up losing his place in the starting lineup. That same year, the Tar Heels lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament, with Carter averaging only 7.5 points and 3.8 rebounds per game. Disappointed with his freshman year, Carter decided to stay on campus during the summer of 1996 to improve his game. By his second year, his hard work paid off, as he improved both offensively and defensively. This evolution did not go unnoticed by Coach Smith, who considered Carter essential to the starting lineup. In that second season, North Carolina reached the NCAA Final Four, but lost to the Arizona Wildcats, who became champions that year. Carter averaged 13 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.4 assists per game. Interestingly, this was also the season Carter discovered that Tracy McGrady, a talented high school player who jumped straight to the NBA, was actually his cousin. In his third and final year, he said goodbye to his coach, Dean Smith, who retired to continue his fight against cancer. Carter and Jameson became one of the most feared duos in the NCAA, reaching the Final Four again. Although they arrived as favorites, Carter's team lost again, this time to the Utah Utes. Vince averaged 15.5 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.9 assists that season, his best season at North Carolina. At the end of the season, Vince Carter was torn between finishing his degree in African American Studies or declaring for the 1998 draft. His loss in the Final Four and Jamison's departure for the NBA draft made Carter reconsider his decision and dream of winning an NCAA title. So Vince decided to tell his coaches, Guthridge and Smith, as well as his parents, about his desire to enter the draft. Though he expected them to encourage him to stay and finish his studies, he was surprised when they all agreed it was the right time for Vince Carter to make the leap to the NBA. On June 24, 1998, one of the most intriguing NBA drafts in history took place, not only because it was held in Vancouver, Canada, but also because of the list of players that included Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, Anton Jamison, and a young Vince Carter. Vince Carter's presentation in the NBA would be unique, as he had initially been chosen at 5 position by the Golden State Warriors. However, he was immediately traded to the Toronto Raptors by one of his best friends and former teammate in North Carolina, Anton Jamison. Despite all the craziness of that draft for Carter, what awaited him on his new team would certainly be quite a challenge. The Toronto Raptors had only been founded in 1995 as part of the NBA's expansion into Canada.
I ain't never been to Toronto, Canada. Which way? I don't know. Go visit. I had the worst visit ever. They lost my bag. My room got canceled. So because I was at the airport so long, they canceled my room because they thought I wasn't. They thought I was gonna be there.
With just 3 years in the league, the Raptors were eager to earn their place, and they had a young Tracy McGrady and the newly recruited Vince Carter to help them do so. Carter not only had to handle the pressure of his rookie season, but also adapt to a new country, city, and lifestyle. Not to mention the doubts he had about the organization after that terrible first training session. However, Carter realized it was a great opportunity to start his NBA journey. As he commented, "They are learning with me." Starting to win, playing with the best players, making history with this new team, and being with his cousin, all of this motivated Vince Carter to adapt quickly to his new life. In his first NBA season, Vince Carter aimed to establish himself and prove he was the king of the dunk, turning every Toronto Raptors game into a Vince Carter dunk show. For the first time in the franchise's 3-year history, an authentic NBA atmosphere emerged, and the Vinsanity craze began. In his rookie season, Carter averaged more than 18 points per game, earning him the NBA's Rookie of the Year title. However, the Raptors could not reach the playoffs that season, which was shortened to only 50 games due to the lockout. Despite that, Vince Carter, along with teammates like Tracy McGrady, helped the Toronto Raptors finally gain respect and recognition as a serious franchise in the NBA, especially as Canadian fans became deeply invested in the team and the sport of basketball.
What seems normal now would I guess, wow a lot of people. It's just everywhere we would go, we were gaining attention. We were that team that people didn't know about.
In his first 2 years, Vince Carter was already a celebrity in the league, earning the nicknames Vinsanity, the King Air, Air Canada, Air Carter, Invincible. Every night Carter and the Toronto Raptors played was a spectacle on every court. But there would be an event that would mark him forever and place him in the spotlight of the whole world. In February 2000, the NBA Dunks Contest would be held, where all the focus was on the Raptors player, Vince Carter. Carter made 3 dunks that electrified Oakland Arena and became the dunk contest champion that year, beating his teammate Tracy McGrady and Steve Francis. However, it would be the first and last time he participated in a dunk contest to avoid future injuries. Carter himself said it was a lifelong dream to be there and demonstrate everything he had practiced since childhood. That same year, the Raptors reached the playoffs for the first time in their history, something Vince Carter had promised the previous year. However, it wasn't enough to avoid being swept by the New York Knicks in the first round. For the 2000-2001 season, Carter suffered one of the biggest blows of his career when his cousin and teammate T-Mac, Tracy McGrady, was traded to the Orlando Magic. This move was very painful for Carter, as he lost his great partner on the court, along with the opportunity to continue growing as a team. Despite being happy for McGrady, Carter accused the press of turning them against each other and making McGrady feel as though he was in Carter's shadow. In later years, T-Mac himself would comment, "I swear I wish I had stayed and continued growing with him." There will always be doubt and speculation among fans about what might have happened if McGrady had stayed in Toronto with Carter.
Tracy McGrady, who was just as athletic, just as skilled in scoring. So I just thought, man, 1-2 punch like that, you can't stop it. But we laugh about it. It was like, hey, man, I wish we could have had a few more years to try it out.
With the departure of T-Mac, there was no longer any doubt who the star and face of the Raptors was, and that responsibility helped Carter become a more complete player and the team's go-to man. That season, the Raptors returned to the playoffs with their best winning record in franchise history at 47 wins. And Vince Carter had his best season in 22 years, averaging 27.6 points per game. In the first round, they faced the Knicks again, where a fired-up Vince Carter and the Raptors got their revenge, winning the series 3-2. This led the Raptors to face the Sixers, led by Allen Iverson and Dikembe Mutombo in the second round. In this series, Vince Carter had one of the most memorable nights of his young career. In the third game, he scored 50 points, putting on a show for his home crowd and giving the Raptors a 2-1 series lead. The series reached the seventh and final game, and in the closing seconds, Carter missed a 6-meter shot that would have secured Toronto's qualification for the conference final. After the defeat, Carter was harshly criticized, as on the same day of the last game against the Sixers, he had attended his graduation at the University of North Carolina in the morning. When asked if he regrets that decision or if he would have done it differently, Carter responded, "I wouldn't change anything. I fulfilled my 2 obligations." What would have happened if Carter had made that last shot to win the game? Would the Raptors have won the championship? The following seasons followed a similar pattern, with Vince Carter remaining the face of the team and the Raptors reaching the playoffs, but it wasn't enough to go further. However, the worst for Carter during his Toronto career was yet to come: injuries. So many years of playing at the highest level, especially as a player who relied heavily on his physicality, led to Carter suffering several injuries. The toll of games between the regular season, the All-Star game, and his participation in the Olympics eventually led to him needing knee surgery. He returned for the 2003 season and performed well, but the team once again missed the playoffs. By the 2004-2005 season, Carter became frustrated with the organization for not bringing in notable reinforcements. This, combined with poor decisions by the leadership and Carter's own mental fatigue, led him to request a trade. Carter faced heavy criticism as he appeared apathetic, and his performance and stats indicated he was eager to be traded. This happened mid-season when his move to the New Jersey Nets was made official. Later, Vince Carter admitted in a TNT interview that he hadn't given his full effort during his last months with the Raptors, and that in previous years he hadn't pushed himself to his full potential. Although Carter said he was misunderstood, the press and Raptors fans labeled him a traitor, and from that point on, he was booed every time he set foot in Toronto.
Well, you can hear the crowd is into it already, and if you're Vince Carter, you may want to pull that headband down around your ears.
This is how Vince Carter's 6.5 years in Toronto would come to an end. A period full of ups and downs, but one where he developed as an NBA player, showcased his high level of play, and dazzled the world with his dunks. Vince always looks back on this stage of his career fondly, as it was where it all began for both him and the Raptors. After leaving his mark on the Toronto Raptors, transforming the franchise in the city and earning the respect of American basketball, Carter would continue his career with the New Jersey Nets, Orlando, Phoenix, Dallas, Memphis, Sacramento, and finally Atlanta. Steve Nash, the great Canadian point guard, once recalled Vince Carter with these words, "In my country, corporate money went to hockey, but when Carter arrived, he opened a new door." His time with the Atlanta Hawks would be remembered as the stage where Carter, at 43 years old, continued making history in the NBA. One of his milestones was becoming the first player to play in 4 different decades in the NBA, a feat he achieved in a game against the Pacers in January 2020. Vince Carter played against legends like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who once said, "Vince is a very special dunker. Dr. J and Michael Jordan did something different, but Vince is special."
Vince Carter down the middle, change direction. Oh, slam dunk! One of the greats of the year.
Well, I knew he was going to posterize somebody.
In 2019, Carter announces that it will be his last season in the NBA. That same year, he manages to be the 3rd player with the most games in history, with 1,523, surpassing the German and Mavericks legend Dirk Nowitzki. March 11th, 2020 will be remembered as Vince Carter's last game in the NBA, leaving his mark in the final seconds against the New York Knicks by scoring a three-pointer off the bench.
Give it to Vince. He's going to take a three and hit it.
This season was shortened by the pandemic, causing the Hawks not to play more games, and Vince Carter announced his official retirement on June 25th, 2020, ending a brilliant career and setting the record for the most regular seasons played in history with 22, surpassing the 21-season club of Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, Kevin Willis, and Robert Parrish. Carter said about his retirement, "If I say goodbye, let it be with my signature." Many wondered how a player could remain active at 43 years old in the NBA. What was the secret? What kept him trying year after year? Vince responded, "Just a love for the game. I still love to play. I still love to travel. The ups and downs of the game are something that hasn't gotten old yet." Carter comments that learning the basics of the game was the hardest, but this helped him stay so many years afterward. Despite the years and the loss of physical abilities, Carter never gave up. He could no longer jump as high as he did in his younger days with the Raptors, but he became a more complete player and gained confidence in his game. That has been essential, just knowing how to play the game, and that's what helped me survive. Although Carter faced several injuries throughout his career, his longevity in the NBA is certainly due to the care he took throughout his career. He was once asked, "What did you do when they served pizza or chicken wings?" His answer was quite curious. "That's a challenge," he replied. But there are also little things that I don't hear about as much that I think are very important that I learned as a child. My mother said, "Whether it's bad or good, don't go to sleep. Sit for 30 minutes, she emphasized. That's been a big thing for me throughout my career. There is no doubt that Vince Carter is one of the legends of the NBA, a player who overcame everything, made history with a new Canadian franchise, became the king of the dunks, and demonstrated that at 43 years old and 22 seasons in the sport, you can still surprise and show that you have one more try left.